Hello, everyone. Today is the 26th of June, 2021. I am Dossou Flavien Lamation, and I'll be moderating this webinar. The topic under consideration today is the role of professional learning communities on teachers' performances. And the presenter is Telal Khalid, an English language instructor from Sudan. Telal, the floor is yours. Welcome to Africa Elta monthly webinar.
Hello, welcome for everyone. Actually, I'm very delighted, to be here with you, in this webinar and sharing some experience of what of doing VLCs, professional learning communities, on teachers' performance. So before starting the webinar, my grateful thanks to the Africa Elta, the president and vice president, and also for all the coordinators here. So let's start. Today, actually, the topic about the role of professional learning communities on what on teachers' performance. And actually, this considered as an issue that has been, occupying of what of principals and academic representatives' minds. Okay, how about transforming BLCs in their organizations? Okay, so here let's start. The webinar agenda first. We are going, to define what is meant by professional learning communities. Okay, the first one. And in the second, BLC's contributions to the teacher's performance and students' outcome. And in the third part, the disinfections of what of BLCs. And in the last one, we're going to conclude, the strategies for effective VLCs at organizations or at universities or at schools, for example. So at the beginning here, what is meant by a professional learning communities? Kindly, in your chat box, could you share with me and explain what does it mean for you, this term, professional learning communities? What does it mean? Could I have your answers, please, on what on the chat box? Could we have a definition or something that you understand about this term? What does it mean, professional learning communities or a professional learning community? Yeah, of course. Thank you. Place where teachers work together to grow in their profession. Amazing. Yes, it's nice. Another idea, please. Yes, teachers collaborating. Great. Of course, teachers' collaboration considered as one of the influential part for a successful professional learning communities. Yes, sharing methodology on how to teach concepts. Yes, very good. Excellent. Yeah. Community that work together. Yes, excellent. Excellent. Of course, working together for achieving an idea of what are professional learning communities to lay the foundation of the VLCs. Nice. It's okay. Thank you. So here, as we have mentioned before, and also for you, that the VLCs, considering that a group of teachers, you know, sharing their commitments and reflect their teaching practices for the sake of the students' learning. Okay, so this is the main idea of professional learning communities, right? Another point that here, what's the difference between VLCs and MPD, mandatory professional development? Okay, so here we do know that at organizations we receive, 100 of BDs, but the question that sometimes comes into our minds, is it useful for us to attend? Okay, so we have many questions that need to be answered. So the MPD, or mandatory professional developments, may be about teaching methods, analytical skills for data, explaining or training students, teachers, how to use ICTs in EFL learning and teaching. Another issues that have been adopted in BDs, like classroom management. Okay, so here, why we bring this slide, because to know what's the difference between the VLCs and mandatory professional development. Why? Because here we consolidate that the VLCs is more effective than mandatory professional development. Why? Because they are mandated, So here we have the VLCs that is starting with the challenge, right? So wherever you are, at university, at school, or at organizations, you have challenges. So you need to solve them. So what are the criteria that we should follow, to overcome all these challenges? Like what? Like, for example, drawing initial thoughts. Okay, and how we can draw initial thoughts? That means through the group work, through the members of the department, right? And then giving an opportunity for the members at the department to interact each other, okay? Explaining their views, what they think, and what they want to do. And then in the next step, that thoughts should be revised, okay? Thoughts should be revised, okay? And then giving an opportunity for the group work, okay, to work on these revised thoughts, and then moving forward for achieving the ideas that have been adopted, okay, before. So this may be just explaining the main idea of the VLCs. Another slide that explaining that the VLCs sometimes comes as a result of reflection, okay? Reflection on what needs to change, okay? That means what teachers want students to know, okay? And then how teachers measure learning. That means what are the measures that have been taken by the teachers to measure the learning of students. Why? Because the goal beyond VLCs is what is a focus and commitment of the learning for each student, okay? And then the last one, tapping into collective abilities of teachers. That means teachers need, to be motivated, okay, to carry on the BLCs, or the professional learning communities. Another idea that professional learning communities is not just only focus on what on the teacher's performance, okay, but also concentrating on what on the student's attainment or progression. So the main here, or the main aspect here, is what is the teacher's performance, because the teacher's performance lead to student success. So here we have key questions like, what do we want students to learn? Okay, first, at your department, may you think about things that urgently needed for the students to learn. Okay, and then how will we know if they have learned it? So according to what kind of assessments that you are going to adopt. Okay, how do you know that the students are learning? Are you going to give them a questionnaire? Are you going to give them pre and post test, for example? And what will we do if they didn't learn it? Okay, sometimes, by the way, things that we do in our classrooms or may have failure. Okay, so what are your expectations? That what things that you need to do if they didn't learn it? And what will we do if they already know it? Okay, so these are the questions that we should ask to ourselves if we need to carry on a successful professional learning communities. So here, by the way, we have disinfections of the professional learning communities. The disinfections of professional learning communities, number one is what is the lack of norms. What do we mean by lack of norms? That means team norms are the foundation of the VLCs. So some teams feel like working together without team norms. Okay, and this actually may bring, the failure, and also the conflict team usually highlights the purpose of the norms. Another point that the lack of team goals. So setting, team goals is what is very important, and instead of keeping, your goals in a short, and that may bring frustrated or failure. Okay, we need to think about the long-term goals. Okay, at least, to avoid failure that may happen, as a result of these goals. The third, part that related to the lack of trust. Okay, so why we said that the lack of trust? Because the team members sometimes are unwilling, to admit their mistakes, their weakness. Okay, they are, ignoring that they need help. So it is better, by the way, to have a trust. Why? Because without a certain comfort level, okay, among the team members, the foundation of trust is what is impossible. Okay, so it is very important, to have a trust with each other, okay, and working as a group. And this actually is highly demanded, and it is essentially, needed if we need to carry an effective BLCs. Also, the lack of the communications. We miss the communication with each other, in a department. And traditionally, that for example, the head departments met the leaders or the principals, in the organizations, and then later the head of the departments, meet and then say what they have informed. Okay, so here we miss, the communication. Why? Because it should be, sharing vision and sharing, ideas in the communication to lead to the success in the BLCs. And in the last one, of course, the lack of learning outcomes, right? Because if we miss the learning outcomes, that means we don't have norms, we don't have team goals. So learning outcomes can be done and can be achieved by setting the norms and goals together for achieving learning outcomes, even for the sake of the students, academic progression. So here, by the way, we have how we can, for example, repair disinfections that, as we have, addressed now. So what I need just from you here to focus and then answering the question that how to create and, for example, an effective professional learning communities. Okay, the first one, we should understand, our goals. If you need to create BLCs at communities, as a community, understand your goals, and also align the goals of members. So aligning is very important, gathering efforts, okay, of the team members, and then align them, okay? And also provide, group rules and a shared set of norms. That means everyone is what is important, and everyone is taking responsibility, okay, within the group. So providing a group rules and setting norms for the groups is very important, because everyone has an accountability for doing something that is complementary for the others. Okay, so it is very important, to provide and setting rules. Even creating the culture of the collaboration, it's very important. Why? This, by the way, it's an issue. Most organizations, have suffered a lot from it. Okay, creating culture of organizations. Some members, like showing off. Some members have selfishness. Okay, they want to be in the superior. They want it, to have, for example, or to point to them that they are legends, So it is better, and also it is very important, to create a culture of the collaboration, okay, among the groups, wherever we are. And the culture of the collaboration, this, by the way, this is like explaining how the collaboration cycle can be done through the design, through teaching the activity, assessing, sharing, reflecting, and also evaluating. And in the last one, for example, inquiry, what learning needs do our students have? Okay, so we need to have a collaboration cycle in the department. Another important, by the way, making a space for innovations. within the group of what of the members, we need, just what to give an opportunity for members to innovate, to create ideas that may be used and utilized, for the sake of what of the organizations, or especially in the department, for upgrading and making some sort of what of the progression. Another, also ensure that the teams work effectively. That means you have to get on with your members well in the department, okay? And then feeling, and you should, be here considerate, feeling of what of everyone, okay? And following also everyone, okay? Checking and making follow-up procedure for ensuring that teams work effectively. So here we have strategies for effective VLCs at organizations, and also I mean here the strategies that we should carry on even based on what on the African context. Okay, one of them that school leaders, principals, they should support. They should support the VLCs. Okay, because the professional learning communities held by the head of the departments, but they miss the attendance of the leaders and top officials. So it's very important for the school leaders and principals, to support the VLCs. Okay, it is very important for encouraging teachers' collaboration. Okay, and also spread the spirit of motivation among the teachers is very important, because teachers have also challenges, they need, to overcome. They have sometimes, psychological matters that need to be solved. As a result, for example, transferring teachers from one place to another, from town to another. Okay, so teachers have or confront psychological problems, that how he can have adaptability. So there is an adaptability term that related to the motivation among the teachers. Another factor, by the way, like stop frequency of planned meetings. Okay, sometimes we need or we have to attend. I don't want to say nonsense meetings, but meetings that they are not planned well. Okay, so the frequency, for example, here brings boring, inattention to what your points, or what do you want to do, or what are your expectations for solving any matter, for example. And also we should be aware of the location and what are the durations of meetings. Okay, if you need to carry a successful professional learning communities, you have to be aware for the location, also the duration of meeting. Sometimes it could be useful if you concise your points of the meetings into bullets, and then explaining to them within 10 to 15 minutes, for example, for not just extending meeting for a long time, because it brings tedious and boring. Also, there is an important issue that they should be, professional learning credits. Okay, they should be professional learning credits for what, for the teachers, as a result, for what, for motivating teachers, and then giving them an opportunity and to compete each other. Okay, and this is what is very important, by the way. So the last, the last point that I want really to discuss, that how VLCs incorporate in what, into African context. Okay, and this is really, is very important, because I have read and I have watched, schools, principals, okay, and organizations, working and moving the shift for what, for working from isolation to working in what, in teams, okay, as a result of what, of the collaboration. So here it's very important for what, for the African stakeholders and what, and policy makers and what, in education, they should very, take care for what, for the teachers preparation, and also the teachers qualification, okay, and also the teachers training. So there should be, an effective follow-up, from what, from African stakeholders or ministers or training centers, that they adopt teachers training. It should be, they should be, something, of preparation for what, for the teachers, okay, to be successful in what, in the VLCs. Ethically, most of the what, of the organization, they should have commitment to what, to the progress. Okay, they should have commitment to progress in what, in the VLCs. And finally, here, the African top officials must work together, okay, everyone. And this actually is what is a message that I want to convey, okay, that everyone has a role, okay, everyone can, can make change. And of course, all of you, I think, teacher or teaching as a profession, actually, it is what, it is priceless. Okay, and all of you, I think you are amazing. Okay, for what you have done and what things that you are going to do. But really, we miss working together. Okay, so that's all for me in what, in this one. About what, about the professional learning communities. And these actually references that based on what, on this study. And the third reference here, actually across the professional learning communities, as a comparative study that has been adopted in what, in South Africa, and it has been published in Open Journal of Social Science. And that's all for me. And welcome for what, for your suggestions or questions. And you can email me if you have got any things about what, about this session.
Thank you, Mr. Telal, for your clear presentation. We all love it. Now it is time for suggestions and questions. Well, the first questions is about, well, should the professional development be conducted only by institutions? This is the first questions. What do you think about this? Yes, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Okay. The professional learning communities that should be adopted by what, by the institutions, because it's what it is challenging, at at institutions, sometimes, as I have mentioned in the beginning of the webinar, we receive, hundreds of professional learning, or professional developments, okay, as BDs. But the question that, do we get benefit from it or not? Okay, and the most important thing here, that they should be, an effective professional learning communities for what we need now. Okay, what we need to do. Okay, sometimes, wherever you are at school or at university, may you have your learners, have, for example, a problem. Okay, you need to do some sort of remedy, okay, or remedial program. Okay, so what are the, for example, what are the initiative, thoughts that you have to do? Okay, so unless you have work teams, I think they would be, a foundation, or laying the foundation of what of the VLCs at your institution. I think so.
Okay, is there any difference between a professional learning community and a teacher association? Yes, this is our second question. So
You mean
have,
that the difference between the teachers association and professional learning communities?
yeah,
Of
yeah,
course, of course, there is a difference, I see. Okay,
okay, could you
because
clarify?
professional learning communities work within a specific group. Okay, for example, in the department. So the teachers association may have, initiative thoughts, okay, or goals to work for it, okay, for developing and enhancing, individuals, okay, how they can, take roles in their departments, in their organizations. So I think it's different, and for that reason, I think BLCs is what is more effective than the general professional development that held in every organization, I think.
Okay, so for those who have just joined us, this is Africa Elta monthly webinar, and the topic under consideration is the role of professional learning communities on teachers' performance. And the presenter is Telal Hamed. Telal, could you tell us those types of activities that could be conducted in a professional learning community? The floor is yours.
Of course, by the way, the activities, as I have mentioned before, BLCs is starting from the challenge. So there is no specific, by the way, activities. Why? Because activities, should be invented and should be, bring into existence by the work teams, in the department. And as I have mentioned before, that the initiative or being initiative and working as a team norm is what is very important and influential for carrying BLCs, at your organization. So activities may be about anything, activities can be about remedy exercises for your learnings, sometimes can be about extracurricular activities you need to adopt in your class. It can be about upgrading and enhancing, for example, any kind of skill, okay, that you want to achieve in your class, especially as it is. So there isn't a specific activity So as I have mentioned before that, it's kind of lot of gathering, you know, information, ideas, okay, for achieving BLCs or effective BLCs at institutions.
All right, clearly put. We still have many other questions. One of the attendees would like to know how to measure learning within a professional learning community. How do you know that an individual member of a professional learning community has learned something about the profession?
Yes, the measuring, you know, or doing some sort of the assessment in what in the VLCs can be done, by the way, by many ways. And as I have mentioned before that, so according to the goals that you want to carry in what in your institution, what you need and what do you want to do for what for your students, and what do they want them to learn, okay? That means by what? By designing, for example, a syllabus or designing something, okay? And then you have to, you know, decide what kind of what of the assessment that can be carried on to achieve or to even to analyze that if it is you know, has influential, you know, or achievable or no. Like what, like doing test, for example, pre and post test, okay? And also sometimes by what, by giving, you know, questionnaire, okay? And then to have reflection, okay, from that. About anything. So I think teachers or giving, you know, feedback for you, at least giving you an expectation that for what things need to be done in what in the future, and what are the procedures that you have to follow, okay? Because in every single procedure, there is another expectation, or there may be things that may are not, you know, visible for you. So later you may know it as what, as a result of practice. So this is, I think, the measuring or you know, doing some sort of part of the assessment for that.
All right, today technology is included in human beings' activities, and you talking of professional development learning communities, and someone would like to know if there is any difference between a virtual professional learning communities and face-to-face professional learning communities.
Okay, you mean, sorry for that, could you repeat for me the question again? You mean a difference between face-to-face and virtual? You mean that?
Yes, 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 Telan.
Uh-huh. You mean the difference between face-to-face professional learning communities, and of course
Very
there is a
different.
clear difference.
Yeah.
And this, by the way, is what is it's a kind of what of a study that I'm carrying on strategies for what, for managing classroom virtually. And I think there is a difference here between the VLCs, you know, virtually and face-to-face. There is a great difference, because in professional learning communities virtually, sometimes we can't put away, you know, distractions. Okay, sometimes may we be, you know, distracted by what, by anything, while we are driving, while we are eating, or while we are doing something. Okay, so in face-to-face VLCs is what is more effective, because there is some sort of give and take questions, and also there is a seriousness. Okay, everyone is taking role and taking responsibility, okay, to do something. So I think it's different.
Okay.
Really different.
You said earlier that you are still doing conducting a research on that. So for the time being, this is what you can point out as a, as a research. I mean, as a difference. We still okay. The next question is if there is any difference between professional learning communities and the subject committees. You know, in our schools, there are some subject uh, committees which organize themselves and meet every time, every week, and debate on issues concerning the subject. And someone would like to know if there is any, if there is a difference between this subject committee and professional learning committee.
By the way, I think the term can be used even and for the subject committee. Why? Because the subject committee, if it is held, weekly or monthly, it's also, it's a kind of part of the VLCs. So there is no difference in it. And what I mean, by the term professional learning communities, sometimes, we need to reflect our own teaching practices. Okay. So for you, you may adopt, for example, a method or a strategy or teaching strategy in your classroom. So I think it is better to be addressed for your colleagues in the department, and then you can show them how they can do this strategy in their classroom and how it can be effective. Okay, so this is the meaning, the real meaning of what of the professional learning communities in specific department or institution. So regardless to the importance of what of the external BDs, we do know that we get benefit from it, but I think do they things or do these courses urgently needed for you? I think so. I don't think so that you need all of them. Why? Because sometimes we have to attend, professional learning communities, the professional development, okay, that are not satisfying for us. Okay, we think that the BLCs within the group in your department is more effective than carrying or attending any professional developments outside your organization. I think so.
Great. Well, could you please share some of those strategies one can use to deal with individuals who are resistant uh, to professional learning communities? Because you see today there are more. I mean, there are some teachers who like to work in isolation. So they prefer to be to an individualistic style. And you have just shown in your presentation that professional learning community is very helpful. And how could you help those types of teachers to adhere to the idea of professional learning community?
About what about yes, we do have some teachers prefer working in isolation because they have thoughts in their minds that they are teaching well. Okay, and this is what is definitely wrong. Okay, now the globally you know, the education and what and teaching methods, you know, have been, you know, changing, right? And we should, you know, stop, you know, teaching, for example, in a conventional way. And then we need to teach, for example, and address what we want to what to our students or to audience in a modern way. So there are many ways, as I have mentioned before, that creating, you know, the culture of collaboration in what institution is not easy. Okay, it takes from you, you know, great effort. Okay, to gather all the members, and then they should be working what in a harmony. Okay, so it's highly important for what for creating the culture of collaboration. Okay, so for that, teachers feel that they have to give more, and they have to be innovative. They have to bring, and even you can create, you know, the culture of sort of competing or competition. Okay, so who is the best one that who can bring, you know, the best, for example, teaching methods that can be applied for what for teaching materials or whatever. So I think all of it based on what on creating the culture of collaboration.
Oh, great. Good. So you are following Africa Elta webinar series uh, on the influential role of professional learning communities on teachers' performance. Uh, well, if you have any questions, any worries, any point to make, just you have a chat box there. Just write your questions, your suggestions, your point, and then we will tackle them. So the presenter today, as you could see, is Telal Hamed. And
Khalid, Bilal Khalid.
so yes, Telal, could you please, yes, you now you are advocating for professional learning communities, and for sure this, as you said, impacts teachers' performance. And what about learners' achievement? You haven't said anything so far on that. Is there any impact on learning achievement, and how? The floor is yours.
You mean the learning achievements that as a result of the VLCs?
Yes, Delal.
Yeah. You know, personally, we carry, you know, VLCs, you know, in what at the department. Okay. And really, what we get benefit from it, we actually we have agreed upon you know, explaining teaching practices, okay, weekly, that what we have done in what in our classrooms, what thing that we consider it as what as an ideal, and it need to be addressed for what for the department, and also it needs, you know, to be addressed for what for our organization also. I mean, we do most of what of BLCs, you know, in my school, and even we do some sort of assessment, like giving, for example, distributing questionnaires, giving, you know. We need to give to have, you know, feedback from other teachers and other colleagues about what about anything. And as a result of what of corona, we did you know, most of what of the questionnaires through the Google Forms and through Microsoft Teams. Okay, because it is safely, you know, to get you know, response for what for it. and you can set forward to have a directions about what is the next step that it should be done in carry, a successful VLCs in the organization.
Okay, the next questions I would like to share with you is the issue of collaboration. And, the main challenge in a teaching community today is collaboration. And
Yes.
at the same time, we need to develop collaboration among ourselves. It is part and parcel of the 21st century skills. And how can we collaborate effectively? And must team leaders adopt a low profile? What is your opinion?
Yes, the culture of the collaboration is what is very important, and I think it should be, adopted by the school principals or academic representatives. Okay, they should spread, the culture of the collaboration, and they should, express the goals and the mission that how they can be achieved through the culture of collaboration. The culture of the collaboration within the group, actually, every member has a role. Okay, and when we do or perform our roles, okay, together, we are complement each other. Okay, that means we have some sort of working in a harmony. And the culture of collaboration, if it has no existence, by the way, the professional learning communities doesn't make sense, and even it will have definitely, failure. Okay, so the most important thing that as a result of culture of collaboration, that we need setting norms, and norms that meanings that every one in group should have a specific role to do. Okay, and if we don't have goals, we can't achieve professional learning communities, by the way. So, and also instead of having, short-term goals, because it is definitely brings a failure or disinfectional. So it is very important, to have long-term goals. The long-term goals that, making or assure that you are sustaining the goal or the idea of what a professional learning communities at your institution. Okay, you can make a better follow-up for it. Okay, and even the members will never take rest and will never be bored at all, and they are motivated, to do something better for themselves, and also for their students and at organizations as well.
Great. So you are following Africa Elta monthly webinar, and Africa Elta, as you know, is organizing her virtual conference in August, especially on the 30th and 14th of August. And if you need some information on registration, we have put in the chat box of the link. So just go there and click, and you have any single information you want. You can even find there the list of plenary and the invited speakers. So you're welcome to that conference. Telal, tell me, this is, I don't know if it is a private question. Do you belong to a professional learning community? Which one, what is the name of that professional learning community? And have you already put into place some professional learning community? The floor is
Yeah,
yours.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Actually, as I told you before that, we have weekly professional learning communities, at my school. And we present, teaching practices that, for example, as a result of what our students gain and what procedures that we should follow. Okay, even sometimes VLCs maybe carry about doing some sort of remedy program for the weakness students, in the subject. And also, there is another part or influential part of the VLCs in our department about, for example, addressing and explaining the 21st century teachers, for example, teaching methods. I mean, we have carried recently professional learning communities about flipped classrooms and also project-based learning, giving, an idea, how can you do projects based learning for your students, and how can you do flipped classrooms, okay? And also, we have studied and discussed a lot about the collaborative learning and collaborative, even if you need to do also the collaborative skills in the subject. We have by the way, many VLCs run weekly, and the big one maybe monthly from time to time in our organization. So that's it, I think, for the VLCs that we are carrying.
Okay, Telal, could you proceed on your last thoughts on this webinar? And yes, your last words.
My last words, thank you very much indeed for all of you, for you personally, Mr. Flavian, for the Vice President here, Ms. Amira. I'm very delighted, to be here with you and sharing, some experience about the VLCs. And actually, I'm looking forward to attend and taking part in the next webinars if I have got an opportunity for that. So thank you for all of the attendance. Okay, and thank you very much for your sharing. Your ideas. Actually, they are benefit, and I would be very delighted if you send or email me any suggestion or any questions about this issue. So thank you for you all. Thank you.
Good. All is well that ends well. I would like to show my appreciation to the Vice President, Amira, who has been there in darkness, I'll say. We cannot see her, but she is there working actively with us. I would like also to say a big thanks to Telak for having accepted and out of his busy I would say, packed schedule to be there today and share some of his experiences with us. So this is Africa Elta monthly webinar on the influential role of professional learning communities in teachers on teachers' performance. I would like to thank every single participant to this webinar. And next month, we're going to organize another webinar, and we invite you and hope that you all be there. Thank you for showing up, and we keep in touch. Bye bye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.